Good afternoon, everybody. MG here, MGCovers. Hope everybody is doing great on this Tuesday afternoon. Today is the start of the World Series for 2020. If you rewind to probably maybe April or May, many of us were doubtful this day would ever get here, that we'd even have a baseball season. Boom, we've made it to the World Series. Unfortunately, my Bravos did not make it. Greatly disappointed in that. But hey, that's it. We're not here to talk about the Braves or cry over that. But what we are going to do is have a World Series sports betting preview. I'm going to give you my line for this matchup tonight and pretty much throughout the entire series. Some situational angles that you can look at and a lot of really good content to help you make a good decision if you plan to wager on the World Series. Before we dive into that, don't forget, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate all those that have subscribed recently. And before I forget, who is your pick to win the World Series? Obvious choice is going to be the Dodgers. They are the overwhelming favorite, but who knows? It's sports betting, and it's also baseball. Anything can happen. Don't forget, if you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, you get a lot of valuable information there. That's MGCovers, cover spelled with a Z. So we're gonna preview this matchup, and the first thing I'm going to pull up is we're going to look at basically how I calculate my lines for baseball. And what you're looking at over here on the left, this is OPS. OPS is on base plus slugging. I came across this 3 years ago, incorporated this into my stat model. It's been very effective, extremely effective. And the reason that is, years ago, the original model I had for MLB was I used base runners, the number of base runners a team would produce. That was good, but on base plus slugging incorporates on base percentage, and it gets that slugging in there, which incorporates home runs, which is a huge part of the game now. I made countless videos about this, about how this has influenced the game. Teams are aware of this, hitters are aware of this, and it's just a very important stat and very representative of, or it better predicts who's going to win the game in essence. So what you're looking at, this OPS rankings here, this is top 10 from the playoffs. And so this includes the last 10 games for the Rays as well as the Dodgers. And you can see there the Dodgers are hitting .812 OPS. The Rays are hitting .702. Dodgers, that's the second best hitting team in the playoffs next to the Yankees. Obviously, the Yankees were eliminated. The Rays, that .702, the way that I use that number is probably about middle. That's not the worst hitting team, but the way that I calculate a lines, the Rays, that'd be somewhere right in the middle. And I'm going to show you my line here in a second. But the reason this is so important, and I've talked about this many times before, good hitting, it's a paradigm shift that has occurred in Major League Baseball. Good hitting beats good pitching. You might disagree with that, and you can, but you're wrong. Numerous examples of this. The reason the Dodgers beat the Braves was they hit the ball better. Rays got by the Astros. You said, well, Rays pitched better. Well, Astros didn't hit. Ultimately is what it came down to. So good hitting beats good pitching. That's the shift, and that's why we generally focus on OPS. Okay, so now I'm going to pull up my line for the game. Now, this is my line, how I calculate it using those OPS numbers. I have the Rays at +105, and I have the Dodgers at -160. And this is pretty much going to be my line throughout the entire World Series. And if you convert that number back to a percentage, the Rays have a 49% chance of winning, whereas the Dodgers have a 60% chance of winning. And one mistake a lot of amateur sports bettors make, what we call squares in the business, is they would say something like, oh, the Rays have no chance in this series. Everybody has a chance in sports betting, and our job as a professional, or my job as a professional, and if you want to learn to be a sharp in this business, is to calculate that percentage. What is that percentage? And for me, the Rays have about that 105 translates into a 49% chance of winning. Dodgers have a 60% chance of winning. So you have to sort of balance those in between there. So Dodgers definitely are huge favorites. But then again, hey, it's baseball. Anything can happen. All right, so that's my line. Dodgers minus 160, Rays minus 105. So let's look at, whoops, I didn't want to pull that one up yet. Let's look at the actual line. So this is about 3 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. You have Tampa Bay getting 54% of the wagers. Somewhat shocked at that. Dodgers, 46% of the tickets, opened at minus 160. This line did move all the way up to, it was like 167 or so. Now it's come back down a little bit. That's Pinnacle there. Pinnacle's probably the sharpest offshore book there is. So right now we have Tampa Bay plus 146, Dodgers 160. Ironically, the line is my exact same line. So no value in simply playing Dodgers at minus 160. I've talked about this before. You say, why is that? Well, it would be the same if you go into a store. So you go to Best Buy, something costs $160. You look on Amazon and it's $160. There's no value either way, right? That's basically a retail price. Okay. If you go to, or if you're in business, what you're looking to do is you're looking to take a retail number and buy that product at wholesale. So in essence, there's no value in playing the Dodgers on the minus 160. Now you look at the Tampa Bay line, it's 146. You go back to what was my line, 105. So there is value in playing Tampa Bay. I'm going to calculate that margin. So here's how you calculate margins. It's the same as profit margin. 146, let's see, so 105 divided by 146. I'm not going to go through the calculation. So it's basically 29% margin or 28% margin. So you would be able to buy the Tampa Bay line at wholesale. So you're getting a 29% margin, which means that's the margin difference between my line and the actual sportsbook line. So playing Tampa Bay, there's value on that plus 146. I'm not going to talk about situational angles, not yet, but we'll get to that. And what I mean by situational angles, my line is the stat model. That's what we call the objective side of handicapping. Situational angles is what we call the subjective side, which we kind of factor in fatigue, rest, rotations in the pitching, etc., things like that, righty-lefty matchups. So that's the line for. Let's look at the spread line. Now, this is interesting here. Tickets are split. You saw the other one, Tampa Bay, was a slight public team getting 54% of the tickets. This one, 48% of the tickets for Tampa. Dodgers getting 52%. Now, look at this. Dodgers minus 1.5 at plus 133. So the way to logically think about this, you're getting probably the best hitting team in baseball is in the playoffs, the second best hitting team in baseball, for them to win by more than one for plus 133. It's pretty good odds just off the top of the head, but you can actually calculate this, and I'm going to show you how to do that, how to calculate a run line. You take, I wish I'd have made a stat for this, but trying to get this video out, I forgot. So you take our line, which is 160. You multiply that times 0.70. Why do I use 70? Teams that win in baseball win by more than one run 70% of the time. So we take 160 times 0.70, and that gets us 112, meaning plus 112. Okay. So, and you actually, I take that back. That'd be minus 112. So then you look at the line of Dodgers plus 133. So we're getting a lot of value playing the Dodgers on the run line in this situation. The only negative to playing the Dodgers on the run line in this particular game, they are the home team, which means they're not guaranteed 9 at-bats. This is a very small detail that the sharps look at, which means, what I mean by that, the away team, regardless of the score, is guaranteed 9 at-bats. So if the Dodgers are winning 4-3, and they go to the top of the ninth, Tampa Bay doesn't score, well, the game's over. Dodgers don't hit, so they are going to have to be able to get that. They're going to have to win by 2 after that 8th inning. So generally, the sharp play, if you're going to play the Dodgers, would be to play them. If you're going to play that run line in this particular situation, would be if they were the home team, the away team. Sorry about that. The away team. But nonetheless, there is value in playing the Dodgers on the run line. If you absolutely made me play the Dodgers today, I would play Dodgers run line -1.5 plus 133. And we're going to talk about some other details here now, the situational side. All right. So let's talk about Kershaw. It's going on the mound tonight, the lefty. And I want to pull this up so you guys can, well, before I do that. So Clayton Kershaw is going to go off in game 1. They'll probably, which is a lefty. Now remember that, because I'm going to show you some interesting stats about the Rays here in a second. Kershaw's a lefty. They're going to come back with Buehler in game 2, who is their ace. Then the third game, they're going to go with Julio Reyes, who's another left-hander. So they'll go lefty, righty, lefty the first 3 games. And I'll tell you why that's important. So let me pull this stat up right here. Now, before we get to that chart, the Rays have struck out 150 times in the playoffs. I'm going to repeat that. The Rays have struck out 150 times in the playoffs. Can't do that against the Dodgers. And you saw how difficult it was for the Braves to even, it's just difficult to score runs in the playoffs. Snitker, the manager for the Braves, talked about that. And when you're striking out, it just makes it a little bit easier for your opponent. So and obviously the Rays are conscious of this, and it's difficult to balance that, because if a pitcher's throwing strikes, you can't take pitches to get behind an account. So difficult dilemma for the Rays. Rays in the playoffs are hitting you can see there, the last 10 games, .197. That's not good, y'all. That's not good at all. Look at the stat where it says hitting versus lefties. The Tampa Devil Rays are hitting .178 against left-handers in the playoffs. That's not good. When you realize tonight they got to go up against Kershaw, they'll go up against the ace tomorrow night. They're only hitting .206 against righties, and then turn around. They're going to have to face another left-hander in that game 3. Very, very difficult climb ahead for the Rays. Where if you look at the Dodgers actually hit lefties a lot better in these playoffs. They're hitting .294 against lefties. Righties hitting .239. So that's definitely something to factor in. Another situational angle people are talking about, you hear a lot of buzz here, is that Dodgers came off that very difficult Game 7 win over Braves, sort of mentally drained. Rays have a little bit more rest. I don't know if that's a huge factor in baseball per se, because it's not like it's this huge cardiovascular sport. The game, what was that game we played? We did it in NHL and we did it in NBA this year. I think it was the first game of the Stanley Cup. We played the Dallas when the other team was on a rest. We did the same with the Lakers. So when you have a sport like NHL, basketball, that rest is very important. Baseball, not as much. So let me see. Was there another chart that I was going to pull up? No, that was it. So my recommendations tonight, if you like the Rays, that's definitely a value play. You are going on the public side, so something to consider. You're going to get value there. If you absolutely made me play this game, and I might think about it now that that line has moved. When I originally checked it, it was like plus 115, so there's definitely some value there. If I had to play game 1, that would be my pick. I would play the Dodgers on the run line for plus 133. Even though you're not getting that 9th inning, that extra at bat, I would still, that would be my play for game 1, because this is definitely going to be an uphill climb for the Tampa Bay. Again, Tampa Bay could win it. Again, our job as handicappers is to calculate the value and educate ourselves, handicap the game 100%, both the objective angles and subjective angles, and then make a decision. So those are my recommendations for the World Series. That line you can probably use this same type line throughout the entire series, because that's pretty much what they are. Rays, I think pitching's probably equal. Some people may say the Rays have a little bit advantage. I doubt that. Statistically, it looks like it's about even. Dodgers have a huge advantage in hitting. This is a hitting league now. So my pick would be the Dodgers to win this series. Probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they sweep. But again, hey, it's baseball. Anything can happen. So that's the World Series preview. Hopefully you enjoyed that. One thing I want to talk about before I end this video is my college football stat model. This is the first year that I've actually used this model. It's a hybrid off of my NFL model, which has been very successful the last 5 years. And this particular model has done really well. It's 5-3 up 2.15 units. That would be if you wagered full units on all of those games. We had 7 games that had value on Saturday. 6 of those, 1 out of the 7, are actually covered. And the one game that lost was the Georgia game, which I had at +6. Model had predicting South Carolina over Auburn. So if you're somebody that you want to learn this business, that college football model, if you become a coaching client, you get access to it. And not only access to it, you see the actual stats that I'm using, how I calculate that, everything. So you get to see a full stat model A to Z. And then if you're interested in building your own models, you can take the information you learn in that model and apply it to even your own models, not necessarily for college football, but for other sports. And if you want to become a client, it's $29.95 a month. There's a link in this description box. If you want to get all of my coaching videos, which means access to my coaching videos, all of my power rankings for all sports, in addition to all of my plays, that is $49.95 per month. And then if you want to join for a full year, that is $249. That gives you access everything on my site for $249 for 1 full year. Incredible value. That would normally be priced out. If you paid it per month, it'll be $600. So I'm tired of talking. Hopefully enjoyed this series. Hopefully we have a good World Series. Should be exciting. Obviously Dodgers are favored, but hey, you never know. So I hope everybody has a good day, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.